Hey, everybody, welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp, one of the most censored comedians in the country, maybe the most censored comedian in the country. Thanks for being here. As you may notice, this is a little pre taped segment because I am traveling for a couple of days. So I wanted to bring you, though, a story, an important story. And I'll be back. So Eleanor and I have it's a pre-taped as well, but Ellen and I will have a full hour tomorrow on Friday. But here we go. Let's get going with the segment here on. By the way, that was one of the most seamless intros I've ever done. I feel like, could I trip over a few more dumb thoughts of mine? God, I hate myself. Okay, so this is an incredibly important story because it has to do with the dwindling of the power of the U.S. empire, as I've been covering on a regular basis, like a drip of, someone excited to see a sexy dancer. There's a bit of a drip. I didn't say whether the dance was male or female. I didn't say whether the drip was male or female. So don't get angry about gender shit. But drip of news about the dwindling of the U.S. empire, the waning power of the U.S., which is important. That is an important step in the evolution of this world right now, is for the U.S. to not keep thinking it controls the world. This is important. This is useful. This is needed. And here is a news story by Going Underground. Russia has confirmed that the BRICS, which are meeting soon, will introduce a new gold-backed currency, which will challenge the dollar's hegemonic dominance. According to recent reports, as many as 41 countries are open to using the BRICS currency, which would mean a serious challenge to Washington's domination over the world economy. And I'll go through that list in a second, but as I've mentioned many times, the power of the U.S., the reason we can be so powerful and can spend $1 trillion on the military and not even know where that money goes, the reason we can do that type of thing is because we have an endless supply of money. We can pump out, create out of thin air as many dollars as we want. We don't even have to print them anymore. 7% or something of all dollars are ever printed. So you don't even have to print them anymore. You just type a thing into the computer machine, and then it says, I have $1 billion, and then I hit send, and they send it over to the Pentagon, and the Pentagon looks on their computer, and they go, oh, we just got $1 billion. And that's how that works. Never printed. And they can just create it out of thin air. And the reason the U.S. can do that is because we are the global reserve currency and the petrodollar. And really, we're the reserve currency because of the petrodollar. So if we want to deal with climate crisis, we got to get off the petrodollar. It's in the name, petro. They shouldn't have put it in the name, honestly. But so this BRICS currency could really challenge the hegemonic power of the U.S. And here's the list of countries that have said they would like to join or are interested. Algeria, Argentina, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Belarus, Egypt, a close U.S. ally, Indonesia, Iran, also a close U.S. ally. I'm just kidding. We don't like them. We don't like them because, we had a bad kebab one time, and we just hated Iran ever since. That's probably the reason. Kazakhstan, Mexico, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Sudan, Syria, UAE, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe. The New World Order is getting shaped faster than previously thought, is the way they conclude it. And this, again, is a massive story, this gold-backed currency, which in the past, the U.S. was both powerful enough, psychopathic enough, and the threat was not large enough. But back then, we have utterly destroyed, and executed any leaders who did what BRICS is doing. But they are too big for that. However, in the past, we did this to Iraq that dropped the dollar. We did this to Libya that Gaddafi was in talks with other African nations to ditch the petrodollar and to move to a gold-based currency called the dinar. And Kuwait actually has that, by the way. And Kuwait apparently has one of the most stable currencies out there or something like that. But Gaddafi was in talks for that, and we had him executed in the streets. We had NATO join us in invading and destroying Libya, which, whether you think Gaddafi was a good guy or not, you can't deny the fact that Libya at the time was one of the most developed African nations. It had around zero homelessness. It had a very advanced society. And he was talking about ditching the petrodollar. We invaded Libya. Gaddafi got executed. And we had no problem with that because that was basically what we were gunning for. As Hillary said, as she laughed hysterically, we came, we saw he died. But to add a little more to the nails in the coffin of the U.S. owning the world, Russia and China have dumped the dollar with 80%. Well, China hasn't fully dumped the dollar, but they've dumped the dollar within dealings with each other, Russia and China, with 80% of trade between the two countries being settled in either yuan or rubles, according to Vladimir Putin. Bilateral trade between Russia and China totaled more than $93.8 billion from January to May in 2023, a 40% increase compared to the same period last year. So this is another way that our sanctions on Russia have backfired, have boomeranged, have had the reverse impact. We basically said to Russia, we're going to cut you off. We're going to cut you off financially. Russia then turned to China. They were already turning to China, but they turned to them full scale after the sanctions. And now much more of their trade is with China, and it's not being done in dollars. So the power of the dollar is heavily decreasing. This will mean, if it continues, that the U.S. will no longer be able to print an endless number of dollars without them losing value. If we ever got to that point, that it wasn't the global reserve currency, etc. And if the U.S. can't print endless money without it losing value, then we can't pay our debts, the interest on our debts. We can't dump $1 trillion into the Pentagon and not even know where it ends up. We can't do those things if we can't print endless amounts of money. We also can't ship $4 trillion to Wall Street during the pandemic, and we increased the U.S. monetary supply by 20% at that time, and it did not largely diminish the dollar. It did partially. We've seen the inflation, but it did not largely diminish the dollar, and that is because we could print as much as we want, but this could be changing that. This could be a big difference in the world to come, and this is an ongoing story that I've been bringing you. Part of the reason I harp on it is because it is so important. It is so critical. It does tell you what's going on in this world in many ways. You want to start to understand why the puzzle pieces are I was going to say the puzzle pieces are moving the way that I think I mean chess pieces, because that puzzle piece, you don't want to talk about, oh, he made an interesting move with that puzzle piece. So you see, my analogies are like a sewage system if it were a butterfly. Those are my analogies are like just a really happy butterfly made out of a sewage system. If it were a shooting star. And that's why my analogy is so good. But you see the reason, you see more of why the chess pieces are moving the way they are when you understand how this system works, why the petrodollar is so important to the U.S., and why it's important to get past petrodollar if we ever want to deal with the climate crisis. I mean, you cannot have the largest, most powerful country in the world doing everything it can, everything our ruling elite sociopaths can, to keep the petrodollar powerful when it is a petrodollar, when it is based on oil. They want to keep the oil flowing because the U.S. dollar cannot sustain if the oil doesn't flow. And so I cover this partially because of how important it is. The second reason I cover it a lot is because You will hear none of it from mainstream media. You also won't hear much of it from your independent outlets. Not a lot. I mean, maybe a little here and there, but 90% of the time, even the independent outlets ignore it. And it is one of the most important things that's going on right now in our world. And mainstream media can't even say the word petrodollar. You will not even hear that word on mainstream media. They are banned from ever mentioning it, as if it is not part of it, because their job is to bring you the political theater, to bring you the song and dance, without ever getting to the deeper levels of reality where you actually can understand why things are happening. That is their job, and they do it well. They do it well. I mean, they do it okay. They kind of, some of the shows really suck, but other than that, they do it well. Okay, folks, so this is obviously a short episode, but I wanted to bring you something today. We will be back to normal schedule starting Monday. And thank you for joining me. If you want to support the show, you can sign up at leecamp.net, become a member there. You get my new ebook for free. You get all of the live streams whenever you want them. You get to comment or post on my locals page whenever you want. You get other exclusive content like articles and things. And all of that's for 38 cents an episode at leecamp.net. Of course, you can sign up for more than that. But all right, thank you again. And I'll see you tomorrow for an hour with Eleanor Goldfield, but I'll also see you Monday.